The Barroom Network presents two fired-up Bears fans. They are ready to rumble on the Bear Debate.
You're listening to the Ballroom Network. The following program is intended for all audiences. Welcome to the Fantasy Football Goon Podcast with your hosts, Joe Mandel, the Goon, and the man with the plan, Adam Schaum. We're bringing you the fantasy football knowledge that you need every single week.
Derrick Henry still going. Stays in bounds. He might go. 99 yards for the touchdown. Unbelievable.
Flushed out again, all the way back. Turning the corner, fires downfield. Caught. Touchdown. Only Mahomes turns what might have been a 15-yard sack into a 27-yard touchdown.
Saquon Barkley across midfield, down the sideline, stayed in bounds, and Barkley takes it all the way. 68 yards for his first NFL touchdown. McCaffrey right up the middle, and he is gone for the touchdown. 58 yards. And this is to Thomas. He's gone. Touchdown Saints.
Okay, it's time for the easiest part of any coach's job, the cut. Now, while I wasn't able to cut everyone I wanted to, I have cut a lot of you. Steven, I like your hustle. That's why it was so hard to cut you. Congratulations, the rest of you made the team. Except you, and you.
God bless fantasy football. There are many things a man can do with his time. And this, better than those things.
Happy Football Sunday, everybody, and welcome to Fantasy Football Goon. I am one of your hosts, Joe Mandel, the Goon, and I'm joined by the man with the plan, Adam Schaum. Adam, happy Sunday, and you ready for some football?
Good morning, Joe. I am always ready for some football, and can't wait to see what kind of surprises this week brings for us. As we know, every week's been so wild and unpredictable compared to what's expected, so let's see what we got today.
It has been one of the craziest years for fantasy that I can remember, specifically with running backs. And, you know, nothing is for certain in this league, and they prove it week after week. And talking about running backs, you know, I think we would have to, you know, talk about our buddy, Jeff Wilson. This is a guy that fantasy owners have had to kind of pivot. And, the 49ers backfield has always been a bit of a mess. But, we told people, I'm saying probably at least 6 weeks ago, Adam, to grab him off IR and stash him. And this is a guy that you can plug in your lineup. And I personally don't think he's going to be giving that starting job back to Mitchell. I think he's going to go off today. I'm curious your thoughts on Jeff Wilson, Adam, the rest of the way.
Well, yeah, like you said, I love Jeff Wilson. Me and you have been talking about him for a long time now, really ever since Mostert was hurt. I've thought Jeff Wilson's a guy you need to have on your bench and stash. We've seen him last year. He dominated. I think he had double-digit touchdowns almost last year, 9 or 10. He even got 10 carries the other night in his first game back, and I think there would have been more if they weren't in such control of that game. They like to use him a lot when the game's close, and they like to change the pace up and go fast, and they'll leave him in there, somewhat of like a J.D. McKissick type role, but with more carries, not just in the passing game, but they like to use him for that kind of situation. So I think he would have even gotten more touches last game if it was closer, but they really dominated that game. So I love Jeff Wilson going forward. I think he's going to be a touchdown monster the rest of the season, and I can't wait to see what he does today versus Jacksonville.
Yeah, it's a money matchup. And, most leagues have their trade deadline coming up this week. Usually it's the end of this week, but maybe with the longer season, your commissioner has pushed it out a week. If he hasn't or she hasn't, you could always ask your commissioner, say, hey, the season's a week longer. Do you want to push out that trade deadline? I know I did it in 2 of our leagues, Adam, and we'll probably be doing it in all leagues moving forward. But I would say Jeff Wilson's a guy to target because I don't think you have to give up too much to get him right now. And it could be one of those big guys that can help you down the stretch. So keep an eye on Jeff Wilson. Could be a big name, especially in the year of injured running backs. It's been brutal. Speaking of things that have been brutal lately, it's been bye weeks. This week has not been as brutal. Only 2 teams on a bye this week, Adam. We got the Broncos and the Rams. A lot of fantasy owners, though, have a lot of Rams. So, of course, they've been a big name in fantasy this season. The Broncos, not quite so much. But, how do you replace your Matt Stafford this week, your Cooper Kupp? I'm obviously, Odell's a newer member of the Rams, but even him and Van Jefferson, you got to find a way to fix those guys and replace them in your lineup. Who are some guys, Adam, off the top of your head that you could plug in and maybe even pick off of waivers for those guys?
Well, it's going to be pretty much impossible to replace Cooper Kupp the seasons he's having.
That's impossible, yeah.
Yeah, sure. But, you got to get something in his place if he's been in your lineup all year. So, some guys me and you like, one of them we're both going to talk about here in a little more, I think, is Rashad Bateman for the Baltimore Ravens. He's still on waiver wires in quite a few places, I think. Let me think. Who else is a good guy? I think Kadarius Toney might have been dropped on a lot of teams. He could be another guy that could step up with Sterling Shepard out once again. Hopefully you have a better option already on your bench, but, you got to get out there. Tyler Boyd's been getting dropped a lot, I've noticed, in a lot of leagues.
I've seen that as well, yeah.
Yeah, he can give you a really safe floor. Like I said, you can't replace Cooper Kupp, so you got to try to get your 10 or 12 points wherever you can, I'd say, just to keep you safe and not kill your team this week. But those are a few guys I like that I think could be available on your wire.
Yeah, those are the same guys I had. And then the additional name I have is Kenny Galladay. I've noticed he's been dropped in a monster amount of leagues. And, of course, there's no Sterling Shepard on Monday night. Kenny Galladay arguably going to be the one next to Tony. So Kenny Galladay is going to at least, I would imagine, see at least 6 or 7 targets in that game. I'd be shocked if he doesn't see more than that. He wasn't even on the injury report this week, Adam, and we all know Kenny Galladay is an electric player when he's healthy. So you gotta at least take a shot on him. I know I did in the league that I was desperate on, and maybe he can turn things around at this point. I don't know.
Yeah, just hopefully he can stay healthy and stay out there on the field. That's just always been his thing. Kind of reminds me of Alshon Jeffrey, doesn't it? He's just this big guy that can make these awesome plays, especially in the end zone. Has great hands, but it's like there's always a little nagging soft tissue injury. It seems like a hamstring, a calf, something like that all the time.
Yeah, it's a brutal thing, and the Giants definitely didn't get what they were expecting there. But I know we talked about it at the start of the season that don't go too far in on Kenny Galladay, expecting him to be the
Right.
one, and that definitely did not happen for them. So that's a good
Yeah.
call. And we're seeing all you guys in the chat. We'll be getting to you very shortly. We're just going to finish up our little opening topics. We'll touch on some questions, and then we'll dive into our starts and sits. But we have one more thing to touch on. And, of course, we do our show every Sunday, and we will not be doing another show before Thanksgiving. So, of course, we wanted to take this, moment to say, first off, happy Thanksgiving to all of you listeners and viewers and your families. Same to you, Adam. Happy Thanksgiving early to your family.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's going to be a day full of football. 3 games on Thursday: Bears, Lions, Bills, Saints, Raiders, Cowboys. And Bears, Lions, I believe, is the early game. Raiders, Cowboys is the afternoon. I think Bills, Saints is the night game, if I remember correctly. So, lots of fantasy relevancy here. I wanted to make sure we could at least touch on it since we do our show on Sundays. But Adam, this Bears Lions game, I think people are going to sleep on the fantasy value here. There's going to be a lot of fantasy points in this Bears Lions game. I really believe it. Both defenses really banged up. Both offenses, when they have the right matchup, they can really blow up. And let's be honest, this is a good matchup for both sides. I would expect both running backs to be must starts in this game. Whether that's Montgomery, Swift, and Williams if he's healthy. What do you think about Bears Lions?
I love those running backs in that game for sure. I think it's a huge David Montgomery day, and DeAndre Swift as well. We've seen Swift be pretty effective versus the Bears in the past. We've seen him drop touchdowns that could have been even more productive games for him.
Yeah.
For us, but anyways, yeah, I think it's going to be a huge game for those running backs. Like you said, those games can blow up, even though they're not considered great teams. They have players that you put 2 bad teams against each other, there's still going to be points scored. So bad defenses equal fantasy points, and I think it could be a big game.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if TJ Hawkinson doesn't have 2 touchdowns in this game.
Yeah.
I know he's put up a goose egg last week and murdered some of my fantasy teams in the process. But if he doesn't go off against the Bears, then I'm probably going to drop him, even though it's probably not the best thing to do. But he's starting to really piss me off.
Yeah.
But I know the same thing can be said about a lot of fantasy owners. For the afternoon game, you got Raiders, Cowboys, and that's another one. I mean, where the big fantasy points are coming to play. Derek Carr, Dak Prescott, Zeke, Josh. Why am I drawing a blank on his last name?
Who's that?
Running back for the Raiders. Why am I losing it?
Oh,
Josh Jacobs.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, of course, Darren Waller and Dalton Schultz and CeeDee Lamb. I mean, it's fantasy palooza. So I don't think we need to tell you guys to start anybody in the Raiders-Cowboys game. Hunter Renfrow, big names, fantasy points galore.
Big breaking news, Joe.
What we got?
Lamar Jackson is out versus the Bears.
Wow.
Oh,
wow,
boy.
you heard it here first, folks. Lamar Jackson is inactive today against the Chicago Bears.
Wow.
Heard it here first. There's the banner at the bottom of the screen. Wowzer. Talk about the Bears catching a break. I know he was under the weather this week. I was really thinking he was going to play.
Me too. I'm shocked by that.
Who's their back? I can't even think of who their backup is. Do you know?
I'm not positive either. I was thinking that right before the show. I was like, if he didn't play, who is even the backup now?
Well, I'm pulling it up
it seemed
right
like
now.
Didn't they have that? Was it that McSorley guy or something? Or
Tyler Huntley is their backup quarterback.
Oh, okay. I was thinking they had some guy from Penn State or something. Tyler Huntley. Okay, he was with the Packers before, right?
I think he's been quite a journeyman, if I remember correctly.
Or is that Brett Hundley?
That's going to be interesting. Maybe it'll be a closer game than we think. Isn't that funny that we don't even know who the backup quarterback is for the Ravens?
Yeah, like it's just been Lamar's job. I don't know, but either way, man, that's a huge break for the Bears, especially with short defense without Khalil Mack today or for the rest of the year. But
yeah, I know it's going to be tough.
Marquise Brown and Lamar Jackson out for the Ravens.
Well, I think Rashad Bateman's going to be the default big dog in this game. So no
Yep.
pun intended. No pun intended. As my dog tries to come in the door behind me in the house. All right. Well, Lamar Jackson is out, so get him out of your lineups today, folks. We were talking Thanksgiving, and we talked Raiders Cowboys, and we were going to get to Bills Saints. Bills Saints is going to be a tough fantasy game in terms of two good defenses, really good defenses going against each other. So it's hard for me to advise. It's hard to bench a Josh Allen. It's hard to bench, an Emmanuel Sanders and those guys. The running backs I would maybe consider trying to stay against, but I do think you're going to start both defenses in that game, Adam. Of course, that's the night game, so that's the one that's going to put people to sleep, right?
Yeah, probably so. I like the Bills a lot in that game, assuming that the Saints are probably going to hold Alvin Kamara out again on a short week. Probably let him try to get healthy to get back the week after that. So yeah, I think the Bills would win that game, but yeah, probably going to be the one where everybody's had their turkey, maybe hitting an extra piece of pumpkin pie and passing out in the recliner. It sounds like to me.
Yeah, I have a feeling I'll be asleep for half that game, but you know how that goes. But,
I do show the Ravens depth chart as Lamar Jackson, Trace McSorley, and then Tyler Huntley.
Okay, the ESPN depth chart must be not fully updated yet. So, all right, McSorley it is then.
Yeah, we'll see. Either way, a big break, and yeah, I think Bateman's the guy over there, but kind of a downgrade for everybody, I'd say, on the Ravens.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's a rough one. And before we get to our starts and sits, Adam, we've been getting quite a few questions in the chat. Our buddy Connor wants to know Bateman, Mooney, or Wilson, pick two. Well, this news especially helps Rashad Bateman's stock go up. He's going to be probably their number one guy in this game. And Jeff Wilson, getting that Jacksonville defense in the start. I have a hard time benching those two guys here.
Yep, I 100% agree, Joe. I'd be playing Wilson without a doubt. And then Bateman and Mooney's pretty close, actually. I think Mooney could have a big play or two today versus the Ravens defense, but I think Bateman's the lead guy and the number one target there, besides maybe Andrews, but Bateman's definitely the number one receiver, and he looks really good, I think, as a player.
I would agree for sure. And I'll let you take this one, Adam, from Connor. He wants to know Ayuk, Mooney, Bateman, Tony, Devontae Smith, pick two.
Devontae Smith, I think, is going to have a tough day. I think he's going to catch a lot of Marshawn Lattimore, so I'm not feeling real confident about the Eagles today. I think the Giants. Who do the Giants play on Monday night? The Bucs. Yeah.
Yeah, the Bucs.
I kind of think I'd go Bateman and Mooney. Honestly, the two guys we just talked about. It's Bateman for sure, and then between Mooney and Tony for me.
Yeah, man, it's tough. I think Tony and Mooney are kind of neck and neck, so I would agree with you there. Right. I would definitely go with Bateman. I give a slight edge to Tony because the Bucs secondary is so bad.
Yeah.
But it's so close. But it's definitely between. You're definitely going Bateman and then Tony or Mooney. Tony Mooney is basically a flip of a coin. That's how close they are. But great question, Connor. And last one from first off, Connor says also, good morning, guys. Yep, good morning, Connor. We appreciate you joining us.
Thanks for all the questions, always, Connor.
For sure. He's getting all of us in at the top of the show. I love it. And then he wants to go Sanders, Moore, or Mooney, pick two. Well, Elijah Moore probably not going to play in this game, at least. Or no, I'm sorry. I'm thinking about the wrong Moore. Elijah Moore for the Jets. This is what we're talking about. I still like Manny Sanders, and I just hate the Jets so much. I guess I would go Mooney and Sanders here. Where are you at with that, Adam?
Yeah, I'm definitely playing Sanders. I like Emmanuel Sanders a lot today. Elijah Moore and Darnell Mooney are really close. Elijah Moore's really been coming on lately, but their quarterback situation is pretty back and forth, it seems like, over there. So I'd probably take Sanders and Mooney.
Yeah, I mean, Mooney's got a good relationship with Fields. He could go off today, so I agree with you there.
For sure.
Our buddy Nate wants to know, how do you guys like Mooney with A-Rob out? I think we both love him. I think he's going to be the big name target today. And, we all know how good Baltimore's secondary is. They're so inconsistent. You never know what you're going to get from them. But I imagine Mooney should be able to find a couple windows today. Wouldn't you think, Adam?
Yeah, absolutely. While Baltimore's overall defense isn't too bad, they give up some of the most big plays in the whole league. I think they're like 30th in the league in big plays of 20-plus yards downfield, and we know that can be Mooney's strength. So with A-Rob out and the relationship him and Fields have, I definitely think Mooney, like I said, could have one or two really big plays today, maybe break one of those huge touchdowns.
I totally agree with you. And it's funny, it's funny, Adam, before we went on the air, we got a question here from Notorious TBG. And we were talking about Tyler Lockett, and we were talking about Mooney having good days. Of course, he wants to know Tyler Lockett or Mooney today.
I'm playing Tyler Lockett there. Like you just said, I mentioned before the show, I got a feeling Tyler Lockett's due for one of those blow-up games. While Arizona's defense is pretty good, he has really killed them in the past. I believe last year was when he had that 200-yard game and 3 touchdowns in like a half basically against them. So I like Lockett a lot today. I think today's the day he blows up again.
Yeah, I think so too. While I like both guys, I think Lockett definitely has a field day today, and no pun intended. It's going to be a good one. So great question, Notorious. And we got Memphis Depay wants to know Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Darrell Williams, or Sanders. I have Christian McCaffrey as my RB number 1. Well, that's tough. You got CEH coming off of IR, and Williams has been kind of leading the way there. And Sanders has got a tough matchup today against the Saints. I really don't love any of them, but if I had to pick, I'd probably go Williams. Adam, what do you think?
Yeah, if we're just picking one out of the group, I'd take Williams. I agree. I'm not wild about any of them. The CEH and Williams thing kind of remains to be seen, I think, today, how that works out again. I think Williams is clearly the better player, though. And in a game where I expect a lot of points scored, I think Williams might be on the field more for the passing game. So I'm pretty skeptical about all the Eagles today. So I'd go Darrell Williams out of those 3.
Yeah, Memphis. It makes me wonder who's on your or on your waivers that you could potentially scoop up for running backs. So if AJ Dillon's out there, maybe for some reason Jeff Wilson is laying out there at this point. I'd be shocked if he is. But if those guys are out there, just let us know in the chat if you're still here. Let us know who's available on waivers because personally, I like Darrell Williams to the point where I would probably drop CEH, but I know that's kind of you don't know quite how that's going to play out moving forward. So I know it's a little risky, but great question.
I would definitely try to trade CEH if I had both of those guys right now. I'd try to get something out of him, maybe a decent wide receiver 2 or something.
Yeah, maybe you can get a wide receiver 2 or 3 out of them, and maybe you can get a wide receiver 2. I guess that's true. You don't necessarily want to drop him. I guess you want to see how he performs today, right? Kind of go from there.
I mean, if he does anything
coming
up. Does anything good today, you try to trade him immediately to somebody that needs a running back.
Yep. No, that's a good point. Love the call out. And yeah, your buddy, Connor's like Trace McSorley. Yeah, I know. He's really pumped up about that. Starting for the Ravens.
It does. The Ravens depth chart shows him as 2, but like you said, Joe, the ESPN's showing that the Huntley guy's starting and McSorley's going to be the backup. So.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, it does say on. Says Lamar Jackson's out. Tyler Huntley will serve as the starter, and McSorley will serve as backup.
All right. Well, maybe ESPN's depth chart was updated. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe so.
I know we were talking about the Jets before, and Nate in the chat says Flacco's starting for the Jets. Stay away.
Yeah, that's going to be Elijah Moore holdback right there.
And our buddy Matt calls out that the spread moved 4 points in 30 seconds when Lamar got ruled out of this game. That's what happens when you get a former MVP, getting ruled out of a game. Totally changes how it's going to play out. So that's a bummer for the Ravens because they could definitely use a win right now.
Oh, man, I need a quarterback for my team in the barroom league.
Well, Adam's going to be on the waivers here.
Yeah, I didn't even think about
I'll
it.
trade you one. I don't even know if I have more than one. I don't think so.
I don't.
Our buddy Ron Rupp now wants to know any updates on Allen Robinson. I believe he's been ruled out.
Yeah, he's out. That's all I know is he's out, and I don't know how long that's going to be. But
Yeah, I'm looking at the inactives list right now officially for the Bears game, which, yep, Allen Robinson's out, Eddie Jackson's out, Akeem Hicks is out, Damian Williams is out. I mean, it's pretty brutal. A lot of banged up teams in the NFL right now, unfortunately.
yeah,
We have a great question here from John Kessick, Adam. He wants to know Gronk or Schultz, and then is Landry worth a start? I'll start with the latter, and then I'll let you take the tight end one. I think Jarvis Landry is absolutely worth a start today. Spoiler alert, he's on my start list today. We'll talk to that in a moment. But that great matchup against the Detroit Lions, the secondary is absolutely putrid, and he is by far their number one dog. He's the number one guy. And let's be honest, last week, he came out and made some comments like, I want to get the ball more. I need to get the ball more. They want to keep the remaining wide receiver one happy. So what are they going to do this week, Adam? They're going to feed the ball to Jarvis Landry. Jarvis is going to eat today against the Lions. So I would put Landry into must-start territory. I know it's kind of crazy, but I love the matchup.
Yeah, I think Landry's definitely worth the start, John. Just like Joe said, they're going to try to keep him happy. He's definitely the lead guy there. I think Donovan Peoples-Jones, who's kind of emerged a little bit there, is still banged up, and I'm not sure that he's playing or not. So, yeah, I think Landry's definitely worth the start. And on the other question, Gronk or Schultz, I think that's really close. But I like Schultz a lot in what could be one of the biggest games of the year if it's a game that finally lives up to the hype this year and doesn't end up being a 14-10 game. But we expect Chiefs and Cowboys to put up points. Schultz could be a good underneath target there in that game, especially if Amari Cooper's out as well. So I just don't trust Gronk yet till I see him out there healthy for a whole game, John. So I would go with Schultz there.
Well, Gronk, I believe, is a game-time decision.
Yeah, that's what I'm not positive that he's playing for sure.
Yeah, but I do want to follow up on your question from before. Donovan Peoples-Jones is inactive today as well, Adam. So another reason that Landry is going to be eating heavily today.
Yep.
So, yeah, great question, John. We appreciate it. And Connor's got one more question before we get into our starts and sits. What are our thoughts on Tre'Quan Smith this week? Well, I feel I have a hard time with the Saints wide receivers right now because that attack is so run heavy. And they go against the Eagles, which, they're not amazing. They're just kind of a mid-tier defense. Tre'Quan Smith's probably going to catch like 4 or 5 passes for like 65 yards. That's what he seems to do every week. Maybe if he gets a score in there, he'll salvage his day in fantasy. But I don't know. I'm not high on Tre'Quan Smith or anybody else for the Saints wide receiver core. They just don't impress me. Adam, where do you fall here?
Yeah, unfortunately, I'd rather not have any thoughts on Tre'Quan Smith. I'm not comfortable playing any Saints wide receiver, as you just said. They're just the quarterback situation is just so up in the air. There's nothing consistent happening unless it's on the ground. That's the only thing I'm interested in is Saints running backs, really, Kamara or Ingram with him out. I would try to avoid him at all costs, honestly. Like you said, it's against a mediocre defense. They're not really good or bad against Philadelphia, but I just don't trust any quarterback play there.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's it's gonna be a tough sledding for those wide receivers for the Saints. John Kessick says, "Thanks, boys. No problem, John. We appreciate it." Notorious TBG, is Bateman worth a start with Lamar out? Absolutely, Notorious. Adam and I were just talking about how he'll basically be the number one next to Mark Andrews, and he's been getting 6 targets, 8 targets. His last 4 games. 6 targets, 6 targets, 8 targets, 8 targets. That's all you can ask for in fantasy. And you factor in that there's no there's no Marquise Brown, and they're going to have to throw to somebody in this game if they want to win, and Bateman is going to be that guy. So yes, I would still say he's worth a start.
Yeah, I agree, Joe. I mean, it limits the upside with Lamar out, but I think he's still a safe play with the absence of Brown. And it's not like the Bears have just a killer defense right now, especially we mentioned Max out for the year. Mm-hmm. So there's not going to be a huge pass rush probably. So I think Bateman's still a very safe play.
Totally. He really is. And our buddy Matt is our local comedian today in the chat. He's got some sleeper QBs: Mike Tomczak, Cade McNown, Curtis Enos, Cedric Benson, David Terrell, Anthony Miller. That really brings me back, though.
Yeah, man, that David Terrell name, God, I remember how excited I was when we got him. I was like, oh, man, I can't wait. All these guys, these are all dreams we had.
Yeah, I know. I remember when when David Terrell first came into the league, and I remember seeing the jerseys everywhere. I was young, obviously, and that was a bit of a dud. So sorry, David, but
the first Bears game I ever saw, I went to was versus the Chiefs. David Terrell's rookie season. Was him and Grossman the same year, or 1 year apart?
You know what? I think they might have been a year apart.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I saw. It was Grossman's second year. First year starting, I think, in Terrell's rookie season. And I remember I was so excited to see him. What a letdown that was.
Yeah, no kidding. It was the letdown of the century. And all right, I know we keep getting questions. Ron Rupp now says he forgot Cutler. Yeah, I guess Cutler was a bit of a sleeper his whole career.
Yeah, I think Cutler's underrated personally. I'm a Cutler fan, so.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, and then we've got last one from Notorious. And Notorious, we promise this will be the last question we answer before we get to our starts and sits, and then we'll take more questions later on in the show. But Justin Fields or Kirk Cousins, the Green Bay defense scares him.
Yeah, this is a good question right here. Kirk Cousins has been super consistent this year. But, the Green Bay defense has really been underrated and it's really not been respected enough, I don't think, as well as they played, especially over the last month or so. So I can definitely see questioning playing Cousins, and, I kind of like Fields today as possible sleeper. So I do kind of lean Fields in this one.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's kind of like potato at this point, but I think Fields has the higher ceiling. So, I mean, why not roll the dice? I mean, Fields could go off against this terrible, I wouldn't say terrible, but they're certainly not great Ravens defense.
Yeah, you also got to think it's going to be a closer game with Lamar out. So, I think that's going to boost Bears' confidence altogether. And Fields, I think Fields is in line for a decent game.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And we've got Connor asking about Kyler Murray, if he's going to play today or not. He's trending towards being out again. So I would be shocked. Yeah, I mean, it's not official on the inactives list, but it's all but official from what I'm seeing from multiple sources. So get Kyler Murray out of your lineup, fantasy managers, because he's not playing today. I'd be shocked if he even, made an appearance on the field. So
yeah,
let's get in.
Is that his third in a row?
I believe it's his third in a row.
Yeah, and then you get the bye week next week. I mean, it's a solid month. It's hurt fantasy managers with him for it. 5 weeks till he plays.
Yeah, with the bye coming up, it just doesn't make sense for him to play today. They're going to give him that extra week.
Yeah, I expect him and Hopkins back after that.
I believe we said that about 2 weeks ago when he got hurt. We're like, he's got his bye coming up. I wouldn't be surprised if he missed the next 2 games, and sure enough, that's the case. But let's dive headfirst, Adam, into our quarterback starts of the week, and I will let you start things off.
All right, Joe. I think we've got a lot of these guys we like a lot the same this week because there's just some really great matchups there. But I like Tua Tagovailoa going versus the New York Jets today. Obviously, the Jets defense has been awful all season, but even more so here lately. And Tua's been really consistent. When he's out there playing, he just makes consistent plays. Him and Waddle have that great great chemistry together. And I think Tua could easily have close to 300 and a couple touchdowns today. Honestly, that's who I picked up. I'm going to use him in place of Lamar Jackson today. And
There you go.
I think he's a great play right there. So I love Tua. I also love Ryan Tannehill today versus Houston. We're just picking on bad defenses today. Houston's not good. We know Tannehill's without Derrick Henry and stuff, so they're kind of improvising the run game between 2 or 3 guys there. And A.J. Brown had a low game last week. I look for Tannehill to get him involved early and often. So I think Tannehill has a big game today versus Houston, and Titans win that game by a lot. And the other guy is Joe Burrow versus Las Vegas, another guy coming off a little bit of a down game for him last week after he's been throwing multiple touchdowns every week, and I think last week was the first time he hasn't. And versus the Raiders, give up plenty of passing yards. I think Burrow utilizes all his weapons this week, who all seem to be healthy. And I think the Cincinnati has a really good game today.
Yeah, I think so too, Adam. And as you mentioned, I love all these guys because partially, I have some of the same guys on my list. And, Tua and Joe Burrow both made my list for the same reasons you mentioned. Terrible defenses for the Jets and, Las Vegas, not a terrible defense by any means, but Joe Burrow is at another level this season. And yeah, sure, last week he didn't have his greatest game, and you're not going to have your greatest game every week, but Joe Burrow's really proven to me that he is going to be a force to be reckoned with in this league for his entire career. So that's exciting to see. Absolutely. And then my last one I got here, I got Cam Newton on this list. There's a guy who came back, and he hasn't been playing on the team all year. He comes back on the Panthers, and his first 2 plays, he scores touchdowns. They result in a touchdown. I mean, the Washington defense, as we've been talking about week after week, continues to not live up to expectations. Of course, they did last week against the Bucs for some reason, but they are just not a great defense. Cam Newton's going to run with his legs in this game. He's going to throw a lot probably because that secondary has been banged up. The Washington football team lost Chase Young for the season, which is a brutal blow for their pass rush. And at the end of the day, I think Cam Newton's a great start today, available in majority of leagues. I was in a super deep league, a 16-man that I picked him up last week, and I have a feeling I'm going to end up using him before the season's over. So Cam Newton, I love him for to plug in and get you at least 20 to 25 points today. I think that's a no-brainer, and I think it's going to happen easily for him. So that's what you want out of a fantasy quarterback. And I know we keep getting questions here in the chat. We had a comment here from our buddy Notorious. He said, solid fantasy advice, straight and to the point. You guys rock, seriously. Well, Notorious, I can't thank you enough for that. We appreciate it. And that's what we strive to do. We're fantasy players that have won many championships, and we just want to help you guys. And, when I started Fantasy Football Goon, not to get on a tangent, I just kind of got sick of like all the big fantasy groups out there, whether it's ESPN or CBS and whatever. And, they get a million questions and they never answer, right?
Yeah.
Well, we wanted to be the guys that we're always going to answer your questions. So that we said you can hit us up on when we do the show on Twitter. I'm at Joe Mandel, Adam's at Papa Bear 816, and right 816.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. I thought I got that memorized. And then, of course, at FFB Goon, and then our Facebook page as well. So we'll answer all questions. Appreciate the compliment, Notorious. Means a lot. And the rest of the questions, we're going to get to them here in a little bit. But I'm going to dive into my running back starts of the week. Adam and I, again, share a bunch because they're guys we've been talking about what feels like for eons. A.J. Dillon. I mean, this guy basically becomes an automatic top 20 running back straight off of waivers, which is really impressive. Minnesota's run defense, not good. And the Packers, as we know, like to change things up between the run and the pass. And, Dillon is just an energetic young player. The future is bright for him. I like 100 yards and 2 touchdowns today out of A.J. Dillon. I really think that's going to happen. Must start for me. Of course, I couldn't get him in any leagues because I didn't have a high waiver priority. Second guy, as Adam and I talk, we've been championing the flag for Jeff Wilson for weeks and weeks and weeks. Pick him up on IR, stash him on your team. I've had him for like 6 weeks. Finally, he gets activated. His first game back, he gets 10 carries, as Adam mentioned. That's amazing. And now, Elijah Mitchell is out in this game, or at least not officially ruled out yet, but likely to be ruled out. And if he plays, will have a minimal role in this game, with Trey Sermon serving as backup to Jeff Wilson. Jeff Wilson getting the start against the horrible Jacksonville Jaguars. This is the week Jeff Wilson goes off and never gives that role back. I strongly believe that. Love Jeff Wilson as a must-start in fantasy this week. And last but not least, I love David Montgomery today against the Baltimore Ravens. They have not been able to stop anybody. David Montgomery looks fresh. He looks strong, and he likes to run guys over. And I think he's going to do that today. I feel like this is kind of crazy to say. I like David Montgomery to have 3 touchdowns today.
Whoa. I would love to see that.
If that happens, we're going to take this clip and put it on Twitter.
Yeah, no doubt. Hey, it could happen.
It certainly can happen, and I know we would both love that to happen as Bear fans that have been let down after year. So maybe they can win now without Lamar in the game.
That's right.
Let's take a look at your running back starts of the week.
All right. Well, yeah, a couple of them are the same guys, A.J. Dillon and Jeff Wilson. We've talked about Wilson quite a bit already. Just really like the role he's stepping into. You mentioned Trey Sermon. Yeah, he's probably going to be the backup, and I think it's pretty obvious the 49ers do not like Trey Sermon right now, or he's got a lot of work to do to earn his job, it seems like, with Shanahan. So I think Wilson's going to dominate touches today and definitely gets in the end zone once, probably twice. A.J. Dillon, again, I think this guy's just a monster. I mean, he's been eating into Aaron Jones's touches for the last month already and outscoring him in a couple of weeks 2 or 3 times. And he's good in the passing game as well. He's actually underrated, I think, in the passing game right now. And I think he's going to be on the field a ton versus not that great of a defense in Minnesota. And, yeah, I think A.J. Dillon has a huge day today. So he's must start. He's in my lineups, and I can't wait to see how that goes. And I think Leonard Fournette, the Bucs altogether had a bad game last week, and they have to bounce back from that versus the Giants. I think that's a Monday night game, right?
Sure is.
Yeah, I think that's going to happen Monday night. Fournette's going to get back to the 15 to 20 touch range that he's been used to all season and probably get in the end zone at least once in that game. And I like for the Bucs to dominate the Giants on Monday night.
I'm with you, man. I think it's going to be a beatdown. Probably not what ESPN's hoping for, but I don't think you're going to see it too much of a competitive game. The only good thing is if you have Giants wide receivers, you'll probably get a lot of garbage points. So,
yep.
So as we talked about, Kenny Galladay, Kadarius Toney, guys available on a surprisingly high amount of waivers right now. So, love those plays though, Adam, and obviously we both love AJ Wilson. AJ Wilson. I combined both guys into one name. AJ Dillon and Jeff Wilson. And I think both of those guys could end up in the top 5 running backs this week. I really do.
I do
so
too.
that's going to be fun to watch. So hopefully that's the case. But Adam, let's look at your wide receiver starts of the week.
All right, Joe. I love the monster AJ Brown for the Titans coming back off a bad
big dog.
Week. Yeah, man, he's just a beast out there. He's so hard to tackle when he gets the ball in his hands. And I love him versus that bad Houston defense today. We mentioned I like Tannehill bounce back. I think it's going to be a huge day from Tannehill and A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown gets in the end zone and possibly has 100, 120 yards receiving, I think. And same thing with Emmanuel Sanders. He's had 2 or 3 down games in a row. The Bills' offense hasn't got him involved lately, but, man, he was such a huge part the first 6 or 7 weeks of the season. I got to assume he has a bounce-back game today and has plenty of targets, I think, in this game versus Indianapolis. Yeah, I love Emmanuel Sanders today, bounce back. And then Michael Gallup, man, he's coming back in here versus Kansas City and what we expect to be a big-time game, shootout.
Should be a shootout, I hope.
Yeah, with Amari Cooper out, you're looking at CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, Dalton Schultz. I really like all these guys to have nice games today. But I think Michael Gallup's just a really good player. I mentioned last week how much I like him. And I think he really steps up in this role in place of Amari Cooper today. And I look for Gallup to have at least 7 or 8 targets, I would think, and probably 5 or 6 catches.
He's really a must start, and this is a guy that Adam. There's like 3 leagues that I'm in that he was sitting on waivers.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You got to pick him up.
Yeah, just because. Well, I mean, he played one game and then was hurt, and so I think people got tired of trying to hang on to him that long, and so. But yeah, he's going to pay off now, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. He could be a fantasy MVP for the second half for a lot of people. I really believe that.
Yeah.
And and it's because of that same reason he is. You're going to see Michael Gallup again for me, but not in this section. Spoiler alert: he's going to be a sleeper for me. But my wide receiver starts of the week. I love Jalen Waddle today against the New York Jets. The Jets defense not good. Tua, as we mentioned, loves Jalen Waddle. And is going to throw his way often. He has been their big dog, their PPR machine. Today will be no different. Jalen Waddle goes over 100 yards with a touchdown today. Book it right here. I have Rashad Bateman. We talked about him a bit earlier in the show. A lot of people asking about him. I had him as a must start before Lamar was ruled out. I still think he will be thrown to quite a bit in this game. They don't have a lot of people to throw to, so it's going to be between him and why am I drawing a blank on the tight end? Mark Andrews. I was gonna say Max Williams. It's not anymore. Mark Andrews, and I think Rashad Bateman has a great day. I think he's going to have at least a touchdown and close to 100 yards today against the Bears. Then I have Jarvis Landry as one of my must starts against the Detroit Lions today. Jarvis Landry been complaining that he's not getting the ball enough. Odell's gone. The last thing they want to do is alienate another wide receiver. They're going to be forcing the ball to Jarvis today. The Lions stink. Jarvis Landry got to go off today. I'm going to put here 12 catches for 100+ yards and 2 touchdowns, Jarvis Landry today. So if that's the case, again, I'm going to pull this clip and put it on Twitter.
Yeah, no doubt. That's a pretty bold one. I think Montgomery has a better chance at 3 touchdowns than Landry getting 2.
We'll see. I might pull this clip and we might be laughing about it next week. But either way, I still think Jarvis could catch 12 balls today. I think that's actually realistic.
I think that's possible, yeah.
But maybe not the 2 touchdowns, but we'll see. But anyway, these are my wide receiver starts of the week. Happy to see what happens out of these guys, but I would happily start any of them. I like Bateman more as a 3, Landry as a 2, and of course Waddle as a 1. My tight end starts of the week. You're starting to see a trend here, folks. Anyone who plays the New York Jets is probably going to be a start of the week for us.
Yeah.
Mike Gesicki, I believe, put up a goose egg last week, Adam, and kind of disappointed fantasy owners. There's no way on this earth that Gesicki puts up a goose egg against the Jets. I think he might be their number 1 wide receiver today because he is that middle of the field, quick throw guy. Look for Gesicki to have a big day. We've been talking about Dalton Schultz. I love the Cowboys today against Kansas City. They might score 800 points combined in that game. I'm betting the over. Whatever it is, I'm betting the over. Look for Dalton Schultz to have a touchdown and probably 6 or 7 catches in this game. And last but not least, the guy who continues to be on my list is Dan Arnold. You could argue that he's been the wide receiver 1/2 for the Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence loves him. Marvin Jones has been, of course, up and down because they're kind of, heavily guarding him. So I like Dan Arnold to be heavily targeted in this game against the 49ers. So that's why I like Dan Arnold, and I'm trying to acquire Dan Arnold if I can for cheap, because he could be one of those tight ends, the tail end of the season that really helps you. You could even play him in a flex because of the amount of targets he's seeing. I believe, let me pull it up right here on our app, but I think he's been seeing 6 to 7 targets a week consistently.
Oh, yeah, for sure. If not closer to 8, maybe.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now. So let's take a look at Dan Arnold, because a lot of people are like, "Who the hell is Dan Arnold?" I'm like, "Well, he's a guy that's going to help you win."
He's the Jaguars' top receiving option.
Wow. So here we go. So the last 5 weeks. 8 targets, 5 targets, 10 targets, 7 targets, 8 targets. And he's usually catching around 75% of those targets.
Yep.
So, yeah, I love him. I mean, and he's been putting up pretty consistently at least 10 points a week out of a tight end. This is a guy sitting on waivers. So pick him up because he can help you win the last half of the season or make a cheap trade for him.
Yeah, if you can promise me 10 points from my tight end every week, I'll just lock it in for the whole year.
Yep, the last 3 weeks for Dan Arnold, 15 points, 10 points, 14 points. So
Yep.
keep riding that train. Also worth pointing out the schedule for Dan Arnold, the last chunk of the season: 49ers, Falcons, Rams, Titans, Texans, Jets.
Texans,
Pretty good.
Jets, yeah.
Pretty really good, especially for the final chunk of the playoffs there. So that's great. Let's take a look at Adam's must-start tight ends of the week.
All right, Joe. I've got Mike Gesicki also, as you mentioned, going versus the Jets. We also like Tua today, so I like that matchup. There's no way Gesicki goes with another goose egg, like you said. Even with the goose egg last week, he still had 7 targets. But I mean, you could see the frustration in the game with him, where it was like, how am I not getting any of these catches? So I think that's going to be a point of emphasis today for the Dolphins to get him back involved early. So I love him. I also love Zach Ertz for the Cardinals going against Seattle, who's not been very good on defense this year at all. We mentioned Kyler Murray's probably 99% going to be out of this game, so Colt McCoy is going to be starting again. I think Zach Ertz is going to be an easy target for him over on some short passes over the middle maybe, and maybe even a little red zone target there for Zach Ertz in that game. Another guy that might be a surprise to some is Cole Kmet. Man, I really liked what I saw out of Kmet before the bye week against Pittsburgh. Him and Fields look like their chemistry is really building there. And Kmet made some really clutch plays, and he's been seeing pretty consistent target share for the last 3 or 4 games. So I like Kmet today versus Baltimore. We've mentioned Baltimore is not the defense everybody thinks of them as this year. So I think Cole Kmet can make 4 or 5 catches and have you a safe 50 yards, and like you just mentioned, get you that 9 or 10 points you need out of your tight end to be safe.
Amen, man. I love it. It's a wild time for tight ends in the NFL, Adam.
No doubt.
You got your big dogs, and then it's kind of like a bunch of guys that can go off every week, and then they can disappear.
Yep. Got to try to find a good matchup.
We got a good call-out question here that I'm going to call up before we're going to take a quick commercial break momentarily, but I got to pull up this question from Notorious because it's a great one. He says, I like Schultz against Kansas City. Me, as in Joe, I like Schultz against Kansas City, but he's been the forgotten man in Dallas since Gallup has returned. Would you play him over Freiermuth this week? And ROS. Rest of season. Well, it's interesting because you don't know what's going on with Amari Cooper, how long he's going to be out. It definitely factors in the fact that there's no Cooper today. I still think that Schultz has a good day. You have a point that he has not been as utilized, but I will say that they can't play the same game plan week after week. They're going to have to utilize Schultz at some point the rest of the season to switch things up. And he's a big guy across the middle of the field. He's got good hands. I do like him over Freiermuth the rest of the season. Let me pull up the schedules for both of them because it's going to drive me nuts. Of course, I've got no connection on my phone right now, but that's okay. So let's see, Dalton Schultz the rest of the season. Starting today, you get Kansas City, Vegas, New Orleans, Washington, Giants, Washington. So it's a pretty decent schedule. Of course, New Orleans a little tough against the tight end. And then let's take a look at the Pat Freiermuth, who's a guy that I can't believe we haven't talked about more than we have the last 2 weeks because he's really bursting onto the scene. Last week, a bit of a dud, but his schedule the rest of the way, just as good. Chargers, Cincinnati, Baltimore, Minnesota, Tennessee, Kansas City. So it's a bit of a wash there, but I think Dalton Schultz is a bigger part of his team's offense right now. But I do like both, and I would say it's matchup dependent the rest of the way. I would say try to trade one of them. Wouldn't you agree with that, Adam?
Yeah, I'd definitely try to trade one of them. Whoever you think you get the most for, whoever Yeah, whichever one you can get the higher price for out of them. But for me, out of the two, I actually kind of lean Pat Freiermuth over Schultz just slightly. They're very, very close. But with Big Ben playing, I think Freiermuth's like a really big part of their offense now. Like, Juju's out for the year. They don't really have much going there. Big Ben likes just the short passes. He doesn't have the arm he used to. It's like, to me, the whole offense is Najee, Deontay Johnson, and Freiermuth. And as long as Big Ben's playing, I like Freiermuth. Last week, that down game was with Mason Rudolph. You got to throw that into account. Prior
But
to that,
even with that down game, Adam, he only caught 5 balls, but he had 9 targets.
right, and that's Mason Rudolph. So the games before that with Big Ben, he had 2 touchdowns versus the Bears. I think a touchdown the week before that. It's like Big Ben's looking for him often. So I actually just barely lean Freiermuth over Schultz.
I think I've been convinced by your argument, Adam, because the rest of the season, I think he is like, if Big Ben's the quarterback, and I know that's a big if right now with his health, as long as Big Ben's playing, I think I would start Freiermuth, because you kind of swayed me, because Ben loves him, and there are so many injuries on the Steelers right now. So I like both of the guys the rest of the way, but I would say I slightly lean Freiermuth and then go matchup based, as well.
Yeah,
we've got a million questions here. We'll dab in quickly before the commercial break. We got a question a while ago. I didn't address Cam Newton or Carr this week. I still think David Carr is a stronger play, but they're both pretty close for me. Adam, where do you land on it?
I think I'm taking Cam on that one, just for the possible rushing touchdowns he could get you. I think I take who's Carolina playing again? They're Washington. Yeah, I'd take Cam. I'd take Cam on that one.
Yeah, they're pretty close. Obviously, they're going to give you different things. Carr will give you the deep ball. Cam won't. But Cam also will use his legs, and Carr won't, pretty much. So Adam and I fall separately on it, but it's close. So maybe depending on what you need, if you're a big underdog, I would go with Cam. If you have you're heavily favored, I'd go with Carr. So great question. And then we're going to take a couple more before commercial. Next week, should I start Fields or Mac Jones? It's Kyler's back bye week. The Lions stink. Mac Jones has been good, but he's not throwing for 300 and scores. So I'd probably go Fields if I had to choose, going against the Lions on Thanksgiving. That'll be exciting.
Yeah, I'm taking Fields on that one as well. I'm not sure who the Patriots are playing, but yeah, Mac Jones he's been awesome quarterback, absolutely fantastic, and just perfect fit there in New England. But, they're not a high-octane passing offense or anything. He's not going to give you anything with his legs. I think he just got so much more potential with Fields.
Yep, and especially because next week the Titans get the Patriots get the Titans, so I would definitely go with Fields then.
I think the Patriots win streak stops right there.
It's possible. It'll be close. How bad Matt Ryan is Dawson Knox over Pitts now? Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, I would say so. I don't know. I still love the Pitts target share. They've got to throw the ball to somebody. That's really close for me. I think Pitts is still a must start in my opinion, but I totally understand questioning it. It's really rough right now for the Falcons.
Yeah, the kid's too good not to be used. I'm over it. I'm over it. I know a lot of people are.
The worst part is still only having the one touchdown. That's the killer with Pitts.
Mm-hmm. Ryan Redden wants to know Elijah Moore or Jarvis Landry. Jarvis Landry by 800 miles. There's no Donovan Peoples-Jones in this game. He complained about not getting enough targets. They want to keep their wide receiver one happy, and they're playing the Detroit Lions. Jarvis Landry is going to eat today, and he's a must start. So, Ryan, great question, but Elijah Moore has Joe Flacco throwing him the ball today, and that's bad news, Bears.
Yep, Jarvis Landry all the way.
And, Adam, I'll let you take this one from Nate before we go to commercial break. Deontay Johnson or Darnell Mooney?
Oh, that's Deontay Johnson, not even close, Nate. Deontay Johnson's top 15 wide receiver, in my opinion, basically every week. as long as Big Ben's playing, and probably even with Mason Rudolph. He's a dominant route runner, man. He just has to hold on to the ball. But this guy gets double-digit targets every single game, and he can see upwards of 15 without question some games. So definitely Deontay Johnson.
Absolutely, man. I'm in full agreement there. And with that said, we're going to do our sits of the week and our sleepers of the week after this commercial break. But we'll see you back here after a word from our Barroom Network sponsors.
The Barroom Network presents two fired up Bears fans. They are ready to rumble on the Bear Debate.
And we are back to Fantasy Football Goon. We are going to get to our sits of the week. And Adam, let's lead things off for you. Who are you leaving on your bench?
Well, Joe, this week I got one of the guys that we've had in our starts of the week many, many times this season between the two of us, and that's Jalen Hurts. He's been a top 10 quarterback in fantasy the whole season. And not saying you can't start him this week because a lot of times you don't have a better option than that. But he's got a really tough matchup versus New Orleans this week. We've talked about Devontae Smith being matched up against Marshawn Lattimore. That's basically the passing game right there for the Eagles, is Jalen Hurts to Devontae Smith, and I think that's going to be tough to happen today. And New Orleans is also great against the run, so I think it's just a really tough matchup for the Eagles altogether. I think Hurts can still give you maybe, that 15 points or so, but I don't think you're going to get the 25 or so you hope for out of him today. So I definitely lower my expectations with Jalen Hurts today versus New Orleans. And another guy that's really broke out this year at wide receivers, Michael Pittman. Love this guy. Love his talent. Love where he's headed in the future here. But today he draws one of the toughest matchups as well versus Tre'Davious White in Buffalo. So I think it's going to be a tough game for Pittman. He'll probably still get some targets, but I think the catches are going to be tough. So I look to try to find a better option if I have one today for Pittman. And I also like, or I don't like, Miles Sanders versus New Orleans. As I mentioned, versus Jalen Hurts. Just the Eagles are going to have a tough matchup. Sanders is coming back from this injury. Not sure how they're going to use this backfield. We've seen Philadelphia completely throw a wrench in everybody's plans when Gainwell was supposed to be the number one guy, and then he barely saw the field. They just have too many running backs there, and coming off injuries versus a tough matchup, I'm not trusting any Philadelphia running back today. And the last guy I got's one of your favorite guys all season, Gerald Everett.
Yeah.
He finally had a pretty decent game last week and saw a lot of targets when Russell Wilson came back. But they're going against Arizona today, who's one of the top teams against tight ends. They just don't give up hardly anything to the tight end. And I don't think it's going to be a Gerald Everett game. I mentioned I think it's Tyler Lockett's blow-up game today. So if you got your hopes up last week with Everett, I would temper expectations again this week, and I would try to find a better option.
I totally agree, man. Everett has not panned out the way I expected him to, but maybe the rest of the season he'll be okay, but I don't like it today either. Speaking of my sits of the week, I've got Antonio Gibson against Carolina, one of the best run defenses in the league. If Washington wants to win this game, they're going to have to use J.D. McKissick. Antonio Gibson, I just don't see him getting it done between the tackles. They have not. I forget the exact number, but Carolina has been very good at keeping running backs under 100 yards rushing and making them throw the ball. So I think Gibson might simply be a goal line guy today. Maybe if you're lucky, he could get you a touchdown, maybe two, just straight on the goal line. But his rushing totals will not be high in this game. So for that reason, I would temper expectations and I'd sit him.
He got it done for the Bucks last week, though, when nobody expected it.
I know he did.
I'm back on the Gibson train going forward. I think the rest of the season he's gonna tear it up.
If he does it this week, then I'm starting and moving forward. But Carolina, like I said, I think they've had 100-yard rusher all year or something like that. So Antonio Gibson's got some tough sledding today for him. But
it's a tough matchup
for sure. So I'm sitting him. Carson Wentz, I'm sitting against Buffalo. We mentioned Tre'Davious White, and I have his cohort, his teammate Michael Pittman, also on my sit list. Tough matchups throwing the ball. If they're gonna want to beat Buffalo today, I feel like they're gonna have to do it on the ground and with short passes. And Wentz, at least personally, I feel like he struggles when he has to. He's getting chased around by a pass rush. Buffalo's got a really great pass rush, so I'm benching both Wentz and Pittman this week for those same reasons. And then last but not least, I'm going to go with Jared Cook against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has been really darn good against the tight end all year long. I just don't see Jared Cook being a big part of this game plan today. They're going to have to use Austin Eckler, Mike Williams, and, of course, Keenan Allen if they want to win this game. So I think Jared Cook just kind of takes a seat on the back burner today. So he is on my sit list. Adam, let's get through it quickly, but let's take a look at your sleeper picks of the week.
All right, Joe. One of the guys we've talked about all show, Rashad Bateman, was one of my sleepers this week. I don't love Lamar being out, but he's still going to be the number one target there, I think, besides Andrews. They're going to eat up all the shares, and they're going to have to throw the ball some. So I like Bateman to see plenty of targets and put up a solid game today. I mentioned Justin Fields already. He's my sleeper quarterback this week. I think he could have a very solid game, similar to what we saw against Pittsburgh 2 weeks ago. I think he could have the same type of game today versus Baltimore. They've given up some of the most big plays in the whole league, and I think Fields and Mooney could take advantage of that. And another guy I like that a lot of people have hated all year is Myles Gaskin, and I've been on train with that as well. Gaskin has not been getting it done. He's had a couple of good games, but versus the Jets today and a great matchup, and his strength is in the passing game. We expect Tua to be really good in the passing game, so I think Gaskin can see quite a few targets, and he'll get his 30 yards on the ground, but he's probably going to make some points in a PPR league, catching 5 or 6 balls, I think.
Dude, I love it, man. Yeah, Myles Gaskin's been a guy that I was high on and kind of been up and down, but this is the week he gets crazy. So I love all these picks, Adam. So great call outs here on your sleepers. Mine are a little different, but I have your guy Michael Gallup for your wide receiver starts here. I just love him against Kansas City, especially with Amari Cooper out in this game. J.D. McKissick against Carolina. I was just talking about how Carolina's got a great run defense, but if you could beat them, you got to beat them through the air. And McKissick is their pass catching running back. I think he has a good day today against Carolina. Another sleeper pick here, C.J. Uzomah, the tight end for the Bengals against Las Vegas. Joe Burrow loves him, but he usually gets about 4 or 5 targets a game. It's what he does with those targets. If he gets open across the middle of the field, nobody's bringing down C.J. Uzomah. If you tackle him by his legs, he's just a big, strong guy. I like this to be a C.J. Uzomah touchdown day with, I'm going to say, 3 catches for 70 yards and a touchdown. Beautiful out of a tight end, so that's why he's my sleeper. Jimmy Garoppolo against Philly. Jimmy G is starting to look really good. That 49ers offense is kind of firing on all cylinders. And Philadelphia, as we mentioned earlier, kind of a mid-tier defense. Not good, not great, not bad, not bad, not good, just decent. Look for Jimmy G to air it out. Debo is going to have a great game. And, of course, our buddy Jeff Wilson. I love everything about Jimmy G this week. Super sleeper, but he's gonna pan out if you start him. And those are my sleeper picks of the week. We got through everything. We're about to wrap. We got a couple comments here in the chat we're going to address before we get out of here. So let's dive headfirst into some of these questions. Let's see here. Malachi wants to know, Adam, Myles Gaskin, Dante Foreman, or Jeff Wilson? Pick two.
Oh, Jeff Wilson and Myles Gaskin. I think Dante Foreman could have a pretty solid game as well. Yeah, that's kind of tough between Foreman and Gaskin, but Wilson's definitely the first. And yeah, I kind of like Gaskin for the passing game.
Yeah, the matchup is too good to pass up against the Jets. So
yeah,
I tend to agree with you there. And then we've got one more question here from Bo. Terry, I'm assuming that's Terry McLaurin or Devontae Smith. Well, Devontae also has a tough matchup, and I believe Terry's got a bit of a tough matchup as well against Carolina. But between the two, I'd lean Terry since I think he's the better receiver. Adam, where do you fall on this one?
Yeah, Terry McLaurin's not been too exciting thus far for fantasy.
No, he's not.
Yeah, I think he's really kind of let people down. That's not his fault at all. It's due to the bad quarterback play there in Washington. But I still take Terry. He's the better player. And, yeah, I've mentioned I don't like Philadelphia versus New Orleans today. So Devontae Smith's probably going to be locked up pretty good, I think.
Yeah, we are fully aligned in that respect. With that said, we've walked through everything. We got you starts, sits. We talked breaking news. We talked inactives. No Lamar Jackson today. So if you have him, make sure you pick up a quarterback because you're not seeing Lamar Jackson on the field. So make sure you have a replacement because you don't want to lose a game because you didn't start a quarterback. That's the worst way to lose.
Yeah.
And I think we've been there before. It's a brutal feeling. But we've talked everything. We gave you all the news. We do appreciate everyone that tuned in today. I want to remind you guys to head over to deepdishtees.com/barroom. You can go there, so you can see at the bottom of the screen here, and you can help support us here on the Barroom Network, whether you buy a Fantasy Football Goon shirt, South Burbs Hitman, Bear Football, Buffon 55, Mike North Advantage, whatever you buy there, it helps support what we do. And plus, you'll get that sweet Fantasy Football Goon logo right up there, and it looks really good on you. You'll be styling. So we appreciate the support anyway. You can give it to us, so thank you guys very much. Notorious points out Lamar, his buddy, has 6-4 and has Lamar. I'm 5-5, so I've not told him yet.
It's not your job to manage his roster, so.
That's right. It is certainly not your job to manage his roster. But we appreciate everyone that tuned in all week. Notorious says he's going to let him know about the podcast this week. Well, we appreciate you spreading the word, Notorious, and we always appreciate you tuning in. Always happy to help you with fantasy-related questions. And, it's always fun seeing comments here in the chat. So thanks to everyone in the chat room. Adam, of course, thank you to you as always, man, for always talking fantasy football with me every Sunday. And I wish you and your family a happy Thanksgiving this coming Thursday.
Thank you, Joe. The same to you and your family, and hopefully the wife and the new baby are doing well right now. I mean, not the baby that's born, but the upcoming baby. But
right,
hopefully everybody's doing good and has a great Thanksgiving. Hopefully you're with your family, and like you said, we're not going to have a show between now and then, but I'll be up bright and early on Thanksgiving morning smoking a turkey on the smoker outside. So if you got questions, guys, just pop them on Twitter there to me and Joe. Well, I know I'll be ready to answer them. So we'll get you ready for those games Thursday morning either way, even without a show. So don't forget to hit us up. And happy Thanksgiving to everybody that's tuned in, and I appreciate all the questions and all the viewers. So everybody have a great weekend today and a great holiday week.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Adam. Appreciate the kind words. And yeah, as Adam mentioned, we'll be answering questions on Thanksgiving morning on Twitter. So as you can see, our Twitter handles next to our names. I'm at Joe Mandel. Adam's at Papa Bear 816. And, of course, at FFB Goon to answer all fantasy questions for you on Thanksgiving Day. And, of course, we'll be back next Sunday as well. And with that said, we've talked on everything, and we are going to get out of here, let you guys enjoy Week 11 of the football season, and we will see you next week. And happy Thanksgiving to all you listeners. God bless America. God bless football. Let's kick some ass. Let's go win some games, and we'll see you guys next week. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.